I came early. Okay, we are live.
Okay, thank you. Welcome to the Wednesday, May 11th meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Let me explain a little bit how this is going to work. You're here because you are asking us to take an existing zoning rule or law and change it for you. And that is something that we're going to ask you to come up and testify about, why you need it changed, why it would be considered a hardship if you didn't get it changed. Then we will go to the board and we'll discuss it. We'll also ask other members of the crowd to come and make any comments that they wish to make for or against. We will discuss it among ourselves here after we've asked you some questions. We will vote on it and you will know immediately whether or not your request for your variance has been granted. If it's not granted, you always have the option of going to the Court of Common Pleas. And I will tell you, if it's granted, it stays with the property. It's not something that you can take with you if you've been given permission to have a 6-foot fence in your backyard. If you move, you can't have another 6-foot fence in that particular backyard. Tonight, before I ask everybody to be sworn in, I want to go into the record to say that this is a meeting of mixed emotions because we're losing 2 of our best and longest serving members of the board. So on behalf of the city, the citizens of Bowling Green, your fellow board members, and most certainly me, to Rose Hess, who's been a dedicated and devoted secretary for 8 to 10 years. 12 years. Let's not, I don't need to shortchange you. 12 years. And to Bob, who makes these grandstand entrances after he's sure the secretary is here, because I usually ask him to do that job when she's not here. But their wisdom and their judgment has served to guide us all. And we're all forever grateful to both of you, and you will be missed. And that doesn't mean you can't come on Wednesday nights and just sit here and observe us. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
May I say
Thank
something?
you.
Certainly.
Okay.
gonna give you the
I hope this, I'm glad we have,
microphone.
I'm glad
Hold your
we
microphone
have,
down.
I'm glad we have a good audience because you can spread the word. But it has been 12 long years. And Judiana said, when I said, I can't believe I've been on here for 12 years, she said, well, when you're having a good time, you know, time passes fast. Well, my sister had another analogy. Are you taking this down?
Yes,
I think it's acceptable. She said,
Make sure it's PG, Rose.
she said that life is like a roll of toilet paper. The closer you get to the end, the faster it rolls. And she says, sis, you've just been rolling for quite some time now. So it's time for you to step down, she said. This group, we've had different people on here, and I want to say that it's the best group. I mean, there's civility, there's respect, sometimes differ, but I'm sometimes disappointed in a vote. I never go home mad. And it really is a good group. And I don't know why. I guess the mayor and the municipal administrator just pick good people. I want to special thanks to Heather. There isn't a month that goes by that I don't call her and inundate her with questions about this or that ordinance. Today, I thought I heard you sigh when I hung up. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I am going to bequeath my voting template to you, and you will give it to the new secretary. And then you won't have to worry about Bob anymore. And that's all I have to say.
It's
been a good group.
Say something.
Oh, I would just like to thank all the fellow board members. We appreciate it very, very much. And certainly to Heather and everyone at the city as well. The city's been wonderful it's been a great opportunity for me and Rose, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it most of the time. And but anyways, thank you all.
Thank
Really,
you.
thank
Now you
you.
see why we're going to miss them.
Mhm.
If you're going to be testifying tonight, will you please stand and be sworn in?
Mm.
Even if you think you might testify, please stand and be sworn in. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay, you're now officially sworn in.
Mhm.
The first order of business is the approval of the minutes from the April 13th meeting. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Go ahead.
Who was that?
It
Bob.
was Chris and Bob.
Okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. We have 6 variances tonight, so. The first one is Ryan and Emily Scrimshaw, 1042 Guston Avenue, have requested a variance to allow the construction of a 6 by 5 foot by 11 foot accessory structure, which will encroach 5 feet into the 5 foot required side yard setback to the east and would encroach 5 feet into the 5 foot required side yard setback to the north. Heather?
Thank you. So under the ordinance, which is section 150.90B, accessory buildings that are allowed in the rear yard in residential districts and other districts where residential uses are allowed, an accessory building with an area equal to or less than 160 square feet may be located no closer than 5 feet to the side or rear lot lines and may not exceed 12 feet in height. So in this case, they would like to be closer than the 5 feet to the rear and the side property line. Looking at an aerial view of the property, you can see we have the parcel there highlighted, so you can get an idea of the surrounding neighborhood. Using pictometry, this is a front view of the house. Here is a side view of the house. On the other side of the home. And then the rear yard. And then here's an actual picture of the front of the house. This is looking more towards the side, towards the back there. And here's further from the road. And then looking into the yard. And then that back corner where they would like to place the shed. And then this is just glancing at the remainder of the yard, just to give you an idea of what that looks like. And then here was the sketch that was part of your packet, here highlighted where they would like to place the shed. We did not receive any phone calls or written correspondence. I did have someone in the office today that just wanted to know more about the request. Showed him the sketch and he seemed okay with it and said he might come tonight just to observe, but otherwise he didn't have any concerns. An advertisement was placed in the newspaper of general circulation as required. A site notice was placed at the site. The other notices required by the administrative code were posted in the proper time and location. A letter was mailed, first class mail, to the tax mailing address of the owner and adjoining property owners. Therefore, all the procedure requirements for the hearing have been met.
Thank you. Emily or Ryan Scrimshaw, want to come to the podium, please, and state your name and address for the court reporter's record and speak into the microphone, please, because not that Joan can't hear, but that makes it clear for her. And then it also, we're on Zoom. So,
Okay.
okay.
Ryan Scrimshaw, 1042 Guston Avenue. I just want to say I mowed the day after those pictures were taken.
It's always the way.
Mhm.
Tell us what you're trying to do and why you want it. And if it weren't granted for you, why would be a hardship for you.
Well, the pictures kind of illustrated it. The backyard of the house is very shallow. The house is set very far back on the lot. So if we were to build a shed, according to the variance, it would almost literally be in the middle of the yard, which would be, obviously an eyesore and take up a lot of what little backyard we do have. It'd be used for all the same things that sheds typically are, lawn tools and bikes and things like that, to get them out of the garage and, just some extra storage for the house.
Okay. Is there anyone else here who wishes to address this request? Members of the board, do you have any questions for Mr. Scrimshaw?
I do. Sir, I'm just concerned, do you have any concerns about the fact that you're going to construct this on the easement?
Yes, I actually, when I talked to, I believe I called the office, or maybe they called me, I can't remember. And I had asked about, potentially putting it on a slab. I was notified that would be a terrible idea due to the easement for the utilities. If anything ever did have to be done, we'd be tearing out a concrete slab instead of moving a temporary shed. So, we would be built on, I would probably build it on blocks with a standard subfloor instead to, make it easier to move the event of that easement needing to be addressed.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay, thank you. We'll close the public hearing and we'll discuss it among ourselves. Anyone? It'll be a quiet discussion. Okay, let's come back into session and I'm going to call for a motion, please.
Also move.
There's a second?
Second.
Did you get that?
Johnson,
Yeah.
Ostrowski.
Is there any further discussion?
Yes.
Hearing none, will the secretary call the roll, please?
Mhm. Okay. Judy Ennis.
Yes.
Matt Bostorff.
Yes.
Rose Hess, yes. Kobe Johnson.
Yes,
Chris Ostrowski.
Yes.
David's absent. And Bob Waddle.
Yes.
Okay.
Your request for your variance was granted. Thank you. You can see Heather on tomorrow in the office for the rest of the paperwork that you might need, okay? You're welcome. The next one is Simon Morgan Russell, 426 Wallace Avenue, has requested a variance to allow the construction of a 6-foot tall fence in the 25-foot front yard setback, corner lot. Fence would be in the front yard that faces North Maple Street, which would be 2 feet taller than the 4-foot maximum allowed. Heather?
Thank you. So under section 150.90 rear yards, fences, a fence erected on a lot line or within a setback may not exceed in height the following. Under section B, 4 feet when placed within a required front yard setback. In this situation, it is a corner lot. So as you're well familiar with by now, a corner lot means you have 2 front yards. This is an aerial view of the property. You can see there are 3 parcels there. Using pictometry, here's the front of the home that faces Wallace. Here's looking at the side. And this would be from the front that is along where we're asking for the fence. And then this is the rear yard. You will see that I did write you a memo that I will read into the record. This is not a typical one we find. So that's why I wanted to give you a little bit of history on this. So this letter is to provide the Zoning Board of Appeals with background information about the variance request to construct a 6-foot tall fence in the front yard setback at 426 Wallace Avenue, a corner lot, northeast corner of Wallace Avenue, North Maple Street. On April 4th, 2022, we received a zoning application for the replacement of an existing fence at this address. Upon further review, I noticed the request was for a 6-foot tall fence in the front yard setback along North Maple Street. I also looked at an aerial view of the property and it appeared a 6-foot fence was already constructed there in that location, which unfortunately could not be approved under the regulations of the current zoning code. So the same day I asked Code Enforcement Officer Jason Westgate to drive by and see what fencing is currently installed. He took pictures and confirmed that there was a 6-foot tall fence already constructed in the front yard setback. Then I checked the file to see if there was a variance or permit issued prior. I found 2 prior fence permits, one issued on March 25th of 2003 for a fence to be 4-foot tall and 6-foot tall. A copy is attached to the packet. There was a condition written on the permit that the fence is limited height to 4 feet from house to sidewalk on both Wallace and Maple. And the second one issued on August 18th, 2004 for a 48-inch picket fence, again, copy attached, which partly would go in front of the yard along North Maple Street. There were not any variances found in the file for this address. It is thought that perhaps the prior owner decided to install the 6-foot tall fence and the city was not aware that they didn't comply with that 4-foot maximum height in the front yard. They are new owners, so the assumption is they weren't aware of that. The fence obviously has been there quite a while. So on April 6, 2022, Jamie Kominick, the administrative assistant for the planning department, informed the applicant contractor that the fence in the front yard going past the house could be up to 4 foot tall or variance could be applied for. Then on April 13th, 2022, the property owner applied for a variance. So again, put a copy of that permit from 2003 and the one from 2004. So again, just to give you some background on that. Here's a picture of the front of the house. This is looking down the side of the home. This would be that front that we're discussing. A little closer up, you can see that 6-foot tall fence. Where it's lined with the house is fine. It's when it juts out into past that front of the house into that setback. And again, closer up look. Another closer up look so you can see it's been there a while, it's starting to lean, and obviously that's why they want to replace that. And then here's the sketch that was part of your packet. So you can see where they again wish to replace that 6-foot tall fencing. So we did receive one email. I gave you a copy of that. At first, the neighbor who got a letter I think just didn't understand there was not a sketch that we sent as part of the letter. So once she emailed us with concerns, we sent her the sketch back explaining that's replacing what's already there. So after that, she wrote back to us and said, "Good afternoon. Thank you for the sketch. I did not receive the sketch, only a letter saying that Simon wanted to put up a 6-foot tall fence in the front yard of his property. To me, that meant the fence would have been going, in on his Wallace border. It looks to me, according to the sketch, that it is for his backyard and will be replacing his existing fence, which is on Maple Street. If this is the case, I have no objections to him making his current fence 6 inches higher. Thanks, Jenny Ray." So that was the only email or written correspondence that we got. An advertisement was placed in the newspaper of general circulation as required. A site notice was placed at the site. The other notices required by the administrative code were posted in the proper time and location. A letter was mailed, first class mail, to the tax mailing address of the owner and adjoining property owners. Therefore, all the procedure requirements for the hearing have been met.
Thank you. Is there someone here who wishes to testify to this? Please give your name and address to the court reporter.
I'm Simon Morgan Russell. I live at 426 Wallace Avenue.
And you want to explain a little bit about what
Sure.
it is you're doing and why you want to do it?
So what we're looking to do, if the illustration's still up there, we're looking to replace an existing 6-foot fence with a new one. I guess part of it blew over last November, so we were going to have it repaired, but then we figured we'd replace the whole thing. So that's when we discovered that the zoning was only for 4 feet.
Anyone have any questions or comments? Anyone here wish to testify to this? Board members, do you have any questions or comments?
Well, I'd love to put the dean under a bright, hot light, but I guess I won't do that today.
Thanks, Bob.
Keep your personal feelings out of this. Bob. None? Okay, we'll close and go into private. Thank you.
Thank you.
Back to you. Any thoughts? Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll come back into the public hearing, and may I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Bob.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, will the
Feel bad
secretary
for
call the roll?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Bob Waddle,
Yes.
Chris Ostrowski,
Yes.
Hobie Johnson,
Yes,
Judy Ennis.
Yes.
Matt Bostor,
Yes.
and Rose Hess, yes.
Request for your variance was granted. You can build your new fence. The third one is Brian Willis, owner of Heartland Rentals LLC, has requested a variance to allow the construction of a single-family residence on parcel numbers 808-510-2404-06-003000. Don't ask me to repeat these. And 808-510-2404-06-002000, located on Morton Avenue behind 325 North Maple Street, which would encroach 15 feet into the 25-foot required setback to the north, and it would encroach 20 feet into the 30-foot required rear yard setback to the south. The parcels are zoned R2 Single Family Zoning District and do not meet the minimum lot size requirement.
Thank you. I gave you a background letter just to explain this a little further. It's not a typical one. I think you have seen in the several years, at least, that you've been around, some of you. So the owner, Heartland Rentals LLC, purchased these parcels along with the house at 325 North Maple Street in 2020. Since then, he has inquired with the planning department about these two small parcels, which are 49 feet by 50 feet, as to what he could do with them, including the building of a house. Since the lots do not meet the minimum lot size requirements, and the proposed house does not meet the setback requirements, a variance is required. The property is zoned R2 single family residential that was already read as part of the request. In regards to the zoning code, I was really not certain if these lots could be treated as an existing lot of record under section 150.86. I think it really could go either way, quite honestly, but it seemed like the way it was written in 150.86, existing lot of record, it does say in any district where single family dwellings are permitted, a one family detached dwelling may be erected on any lot as defined in 150.03. 40 feet or wider of official record as of the effective date of this chapter, irrespective of the area of the lot, provided the owner of such lot does not own any adjoining property. So in that case, I was not really certain that that really could apply. But either way, even if it was an existing lot of record or under the R2 zoning, it would still need a variance regarding, basically either way. So again, wanted to explain that. So it's up to you, though, if you did want to consider doing it under a different setback for the existing lot of record. But again, just my opinion that I wanted to share that. Also, we have an average front yard setback section under 150.88 front yards that we had looked at for that block. It's sort of a mixed bag of homes there, not a lot of them, but some sit further back. So the average front yard setback would not be helpful, if that makes sense. So we also looked at 325 North Maple Street in that file. And they actually got a variance to add to the front of the house, which is a corner lot, under the 25-foot front yard setback. So that's when we decided that if that house was treated that same way, that makes sense that there is not an average front yard for this section of Morton Avenue. So, and I also gave you a copy of that variance request and that permit of 325 North Maple, just to show that they went through the variance process and that 25-foot front setback was applied. Also, as far as the minimum lot size requirement in R2, it is 7,200 square feet. So basically a 60 by 120-foot lot. So it seemed like if a variance was needed for the setback, we should mention at least that it doesn't meet the minimum square foot, which is 4,900 square feet with those parcels together. So anyways, I just want to make sure you're aware of that, how we really tried to carefully consider this and write the variance that made the most sense. Lastly, I thought it was interesting to note that we did send the city surveyor to research the property, and he found these lots were actually split off from the original parcel back in 1890. So it's one of those things where, we have no idea why that was done or, the reasoning behind it, but it did have the same ownership of all three parcels together. So the 325 North Maple and those other two parcels since it was split in 1890. So again, just kind of a fun fact there to look back at history. So again, I did give you a copy of the ZBA application, that approval for 325 North Maple, and the actual permit application. So we did not receive any written correspondence or phone calls about the request. Again, I'm going to point out the section 150.16. These are the bulk and density requirements. And then that's where we circled the minimum setbacks of the side yard of 10 feet, which it complies. But the front yard, again, would be the 25-foot minimum, and then the rear yard 30-foot minimum under the R2. And then minimum lot area, again, would be for single family home, the 7,200 square feet. Here's an aerial view of the two parcels highlighted there. So again, that's Morton Avenue. And then here is the 325 address. Using pictometry, it's kind of hard to show a vacant lot, but basically there is the lot that you can see there, or the lots, I should say. Another view down there. There actually is an unimproved alley that runs along the property. Here's a front view looking at the two parcels. There's another view off Morton. And then here's a picture as you enter from Maple. The 325 is there in the corner. And then you turn in and that's Morton Avenue. It's probably not I would say a highly traveled road. It's kind of hidden there a bit. Here again is the 325 North Maple, and then looking down Morton a little closer. And then here's the actual two lots. And here is looking at the lots, and then again, kind of the unimproved alley there. It's obviously, again, unimproved, so you can't really tell where it starts and stops based on that picture. And then another view kind of back in the corner more so. Another view from Morton of those lots. Here's a sketch that was submitted as part of your packet, so you can see the proposed house. And then there's that property line, but basically when you build over the line, it basically combines those two lots as one. And again, the variance would be for the front yard and then the rear yard. So that was it. Hopefully I didn't make that too complicated. I was trying to simplify it as much as possible, believe it or not. An advertisement was placed in the newspaper of general circulation as required. A site notice was placed at the site. The other notices required by the Administrative Code are posted in the proper time and location. A letter was mailed, first class mail, to the tax mailing address of the owner and adjoining property owner. Therefore, all the procedure requirements for the hearing have been met.
Thank you. Mr. Wallace, please state your name and address.
Brian Wiles, 1808 Timber Ridge Drive, Bowling Green, Ohio. Thank you for all your work on this. We've been emailing back and forth, and it is a little bit of a complicated lot. And so I wanted to start off just giving quick history as to how we ended up in the situation. My wife and I purchased the property out of foreclosure in February of 2020. That's something that we have done a number of different times here in Bowling Green. Our hope is to obviously improve the property and provide livable housing. The house wasn't livable at the time. So 325 North Maple, as we purchased the property, we realized that these two rear lots, as I think we're calling them, had to come with the purchase of the property. We didn't have the option to not purchase them. They came with the property. So I say that because in terms of the specific hardship, I think that would be the first one. These lots were attached to the property that we purchased. The other hardship is that they are separate lots that we are paying taxes on. They're lots that we need to, upkeep and take care of and those types of things. And so we felt like it would be a great opportunity to provide affordable housing in the area that's very close to walkable distance downtown Bowling Green, city parks, and provide some great affordable housing to Bowling Green. So that's why the request is being made.
Okay. Members of the board have any questions or comments? Anyone in the audience wish to address this? Sir? You need to come up to the podium and state your name and phone number. I'm saying name and address. You don't have to give us your phone number.
My name is Dan Dunn. I live at 550 Morton Avenue, which is across the street and slightly west of the proposed location here. I am not in favor of this variance being granted. Almost all the houses who have an address on Morton Avenue are owner-occupied housing. I am afraid of what a house like this will do to property value in that area. I'm also concerned about parking with only a 10-foot front setback. I would assume that most parking will be on street. If someone parks on that street, it will cover more than half of the street. Not much room for emergency vehicles of any kind to get down through there. Because of those reasons, I am not in favor of the variance being granted.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to comment on this? Members of the board, do you have any questions or comments? Oh.
Can I just
Sure.
very quickly address,
Yes.
and I completely understand sometimes those situations are hard. If we want to get into property value, I would actually think that this would increase property value. We're going to put a brand new, very nice build on this property. I don't know if you have a picture of the potential sketches that we have. So, and there'll be a 2-car attached garage to the property as well. So obviously I don't know exactly how people would park or what the situation would be. But I'm not super concerned about off-street parking, especially on that street. And I think, I don't know whether it'll be, we're still figuring out what we'll even do with the property. It's very possible that it would be built as a spec home and it would be owner occupied as well. So it's hard to say exactly what that situation would be. I can also speak to, the tenants at 325 North Maple, out-of-state tenants that moved into town, amazing tenants. They're great type of people that you would want in this community. These aren't college, student rentals if people are partial to that or whatever. So if it would become a rental, this would be a high-end rental that people would be renting a brand new build, so I wouldn't worry about the neighborhood deteriorating because of a brand new build in the neighborhood.
How many bedrooms is it?
4 bedrooms.
Do you anticipate parking issues?
I don't know why there would be. Again, we'll have, a driveway, a 2-car garage. So I don't see any reason why there would be parking problems.
So you could easily accommodate 4 cars if it were to become a rental.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Is there on-street parking on North Maple?
That's a great question.
I'm-
I believe there is.
I think.
Ground Street parking Morton Avenue.
I'm not sure without researching that.
Mm.
I'm
Sir?
sorry, you won't be on the record if you don't
Sir,
talk on the
need to come up
speaker.
and state your,
Sorry.
please. Yes, you can come right up here and state your name and address and finish your
Is he sworn?
sentence. No, were you sworn in? I thought so, yeah.
My name is Bruce Burrows. I'm at 313 Meeker Street.
Okay.
I'm just down the block from where they're going to build the house. Meeker Street doesn't have on-street parking for that section of the block, and it's because the street was very narrow. It's narrower than the south part of Meeker, so they blocked it off because of emergency vehicles couldn't get through. And that was just the concern I had, was with the parking and if they had to spill out onto the street. I'm not sure if Morton has the no parking requirement like Meeker does, but it's even narrower than our street. So I can imagine somebody asking for it if they, felt the need. But it's just that the street is also unfinished. It's been an alley for a very long time. It hasn't been paved. And I'm concerned also about fire hydrants. There isn't one in that area at the moment. So it just seems like it's kind of an unfinished street, and it just gives me a concern about safety requirements and parking and so forth.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. And after thinking on it, for the record, I want to say 95% positive there's on-street parking on North Maple, right in front of 325 North Maple. I know I've parked there multiple times and I've never got a ticket. So I'm pretty sure there's on-street parking there, right in front of the Waterworks building. So, and I'm also pretty sure there's a fire hydrant right there as well. But again, now that might be more conjecture, but I believe there's a fire hydrant right there on the lot that it is attached to at the moment. So that seems like more of a city issue that I would assume the city would take care of.
Anyone else? Members of the board, do you have any questions or comments? Thank you, sir. Gentlemen, lady?
I guess my concern is that the parking on Morton Street. Could we table the issue until we find out if there is parking on Morton Street? Because it is that narrow. The setback from the house, I know there's a garage there, but to accommodate 4 cars, you'd have to put her full, park 2 in the garage, 2 in the driveway, blocking 2 in the garage in. So that, my guess, that's not going to happen. But the parking along Morton Street, if there's no parking along the street, I'd feel more comfortable doing it. Just on street parking. Is that?
My concern is the unimproved street. It's an alley and currently posted that it's not a through street. And it is a very beautiful home in the picture that was provided. However, my concern is if it were to become a rental, how many persons might be living in there? The bedrooms, except for the owner's suite, they are quite small, or 9 by 10 rooms.
It would be limited to 4.
There
That's the
are
code.
3 of those, and then there is a master suite. But again, that's all conjecture because it doesn't have to be rented. But these are all things we have to consider. My greatest concern is accessibility for the home because we have an unimproved street in front of it.
How is that the problem of the developer if there's an unimproved street? You know what I'm saying? How does that?
I don't see it as a problem of the developer so much as it is a problem for us to decide to allow a construction of something where we might feel it's not
So I'm
inconvenient, but
trying to
also
interpret
unsafe.
what you're saying. If the street were improved, you would feel better about this situation? Is that
It's
what
just
you're?
a concern of mine, yes.
Okay.
Like it'd be wider if it was a through the street.
Without a base on a street, I don't know what the street would become with use.
So the street is unimproved, if I'm recalling correctly, because I drove down there beyond where this is going to be built. So you would still have a paved street, at least. There it is gravel, and you can drive through to get to the other side of Morton. But you're right, it is a gravel road for a stretch, and then it goes on to another section of that street. Actually, I drove back there. I was kind of shocked at how much undeveloped land there is. It's kind of some untapped potential back there. It's really pretty too. So I have to say I'm inclined to vote yes here. I think it'd be a really neat place to have a home built. And if you go beyond the next block, there's some really nice houses back there. So I think it's really a great opportunity. I also think we need to stay away from the stigma, and you're going to understand where this is coming from, that anytime somebody mentions that it could be a rental, that's bad. I hate that. Just because somebody's renting something or there's a potential to rent it, that's an opportunity for somebody else. So I'd really like to stay away from that. He's going to be spending his money developing something and bettering the city. And I think that's a good thing for Bowling Green.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure they meant it was bad because it's rental.
Chris, you're going to have to speak up.
No, I'm not sure if they meant it was bad because it was rental. I think they're more concerned about number of adult drivers having cars in, parked in the street, parked in the area.
And
More of a concern than
sure.
it being bad.
Yeah. And we've covered that, I think, before. I think it just ends up being, it is what it is. If there's 2 parking spots and you've got 4 cars, then that's probably not a good place for you to rent. I mean, it's similar to other apartment buildings. If there's not enough parking spots, then there's just no place for the cars. I think that's something for the city to enforce, and certainly for the landowner, if he's going to be deciding to rent it, he would want to enforce that to cause less problems. But certainly you wouldn't rent to somebody that has 8 cars. So just make the stipulation 2 cars. I think we're really splitting hairs there.
Well, he could also make the driveway wider, couldn't you? Then that wouldn't be a problem.
Well, there's also the side lot too, where you could put additional parking, or in fact, I have some properties that are on side streets, and I've paved what is actually city right of way with really a lot of luck, and it's helped get the cars off the streets, and it's really cleaned that area up back there on Adams. So it was extremely tight. We fixed that problem.
Any other questions, comments, suggestions?
I'd be willing to table it. As narrow as Morton is, I don't feel comfortable voting yes with that people parking on the street. If we could table it and find out what the parking restrictions are on Morton, I would definitely feel more comfortable.
It would be interesting too to find out if the city has future plans for maybe doing something with it, improving it. We don't know that.
The rest of you, how do you feel?
I would be willing to table it.
I'll do either.
So
I'm ready
I
to
just want
vote,
to,
or I'm fine tabling it if someone needs more information.
Opie?
if you,
Yeah.
I'm still
well, we're
calculating everything as I'm listening to it.
I think we're in executive session right now, right?
Yeah.
So you just have to wait.
You can in just a minute.
Yeah. I realize, I mean, I'm always concerned a little bit about hindering somebody that wants to spend money and develop in Bowling Green. I don't want somebody putting in a truck stop next door to my house or anything, but we have somebody that's building a single family home on a lot that I feel like it can accommodate that. And I'd hate to hinder that, especially when you look at the economy right now, interest rates continue to go up. The situation could change for this individual if we wait. I would hate to do that to that person.
The thing is, our job isn't to worry about that. It's worry about zoning code and enforcing what we need to do for the whole area, not just for the developer.
Understood.
And that's kind of what I'm feeling is that, we're stewards of the responsibility of the zoning of the city and safety of people who build and where they build. And so without all the information we may need to make a good decision, I would like to consider the tabling.
Mr. Wills, would you Would you be amenable to us tabling this and then having you come back next month?
Next month.
When we have the facts that we need, and you do not have to reapply with another $100. I'll tell you that.
Could I ask for-
Sure.
We don't have the exact design of the house picked out. So I guess one question to consider would be if the main concern is the amount of bedrooms in the house, which could lead to more tenants, if we would consider making a 3-bedroom instead of a 4-bedroom, if that would make people feel more comfortable that, you know, there may be less cars. Again, it's a little hard to figure out exactly, you know, we're trying to predict the future of who's going to be living there, which I understand that's the job that you have, that you're tasked with. But I mean, we typically would prefer to rent to families. I would assume there's only going to be 2 cars there, but that's, you know, neither here nor there. But if we did rent it or build it as a 3-bedroom, then we would know that there wouldn't be, you know, 4 unrelated folks living there as well. So something to consider if that, I'm not sure how this whole process works, but if that's something to.
So this plan in front of me is not
Not set in stone.
not set in stone.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. The general size dimensions are just because that's what's best going to fit on that lot. And we also have the side yard because the lot was wide and not very deep. You know, we obviously picked a floor plan that would fit that. And then we essentially turned the side yard into the yard area rather than the backyard. But yes, we could definitely consider doing a 3-bedroom if that would make sense.
If I may. I don't feel that anybody here on the board is trying to tell you how many bedrooms you should have. That's
Okay.
not our right to do. All we're interested in is, I think, at least I feel, trying to get the specific information that we need to allow you to have a variance to
Sure.
do something different than what the code says you're supposed to be doing. And you've got an odd condition in front of you.
Right. Yeah.
And
That's
so
a
we don't
hardship.
want you to get in a spot where you're in difficulty as well, nor do we want to put the city in that difficulty. So if we could have the 30 days to get the answers that we need, I think we'd be more comfortable.
Okay.
And I don't think it requires you to have to make adjustments here.
Well, again, it's just if that was the reason why it's not granted, I was just saying, because we're kind of saying both things. On the one hand, we're saying that's not the reason why it's granted. On the other hand, so I would be happy to change it if that would make
Personally, I like
people sleep easy. Yeah. Yeah.
accommodate the family.
Right.
Well, and we, you know, Bowling Green needs more affordable housing.
Sure.
No question about that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
sir.
I'm actually okay with tabling it based on him being more comfortable with it. So if
We
that's what we
will-
want to
all
do, I'd go ahead and do it.
We will table this request for a variance until we can get further information from the city based on what the parking is for Morton.
Do we need to make a motion?
I was just gonna ask, are you making a
I'm gonna-
motion?
I'll make a
I'm gonna-
motion that we table the discussion until
I
next
was
meeting.
making that motion.
Oh, sorry. Look at that. I just swatted the ball right away from me.
That was my motion. Is there a second to my
I
motion?
would like to second that motion if I may.
He'll second it.
All those in favor, will the secretary call the roll, please?
I will. Matt Bostor,
Yes.
Judy Ennis.
Yes.
Hobie Johnson.
Chris?
Yes.
No, I said Hobie Johnson.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, are you awake? Chris Ostrowski.
Yes.
Bob Waddle
Yes.
and Rose Hess, yes.
All right, your request will be tabled until next month, okay?
Thank you.
All right. The next one is Greg Kinder at 800 Deer Ridge Run. Has requested a variance to construct an 11-foot by 26-foot addition, third garage bay, which would encroach 2 feet 5 inches into the 10-foot required side yard setback to the north. Heather?
Thank you. So under section 150.16 bulk and density requirements, the minimum side yard setback is 10 feet. So that's where that comes from. It is zoned R2 single family. Here's an aerial view of the property there on Deer Ridge Run. You can see they're basically like villas where that shared wall is. So this would be on the northern parcel there. I included this in this presentation just to show you that there is a 0 side yard setback for the shared wall. And that was part of the original plat that was approved for Deer Hollow. But again, that 10 foot on the other side still does apply. Using pictometry, here's a side view there of the property, a rear view, the other side where that third bay would be constructed. And then here's the front of the property. Here's a picture of the front. Here's closer up to that actual side of the property. And here's looking towards the side, towards the back. And then here's directly at where that addition would go. And then we highlighted there the sketch that was part of your packet, showing that setback and the dimensions of that third bay. We received one letter that I gave you a copy of at your seat. What this gentleman did was he has a handwritten note on our letter that was sent to him as an adjoining property owner. So he wrote a note on there dated May 9th of 2022. And he wrote, Mr. Kinder showed me his situation. I do not oppose this request. Alvin Carlson, and he left his phone number on that. An advertisement was placed in the newspaper of general circulation as required. A site notice was placed at the site. The other notices required by the administrative code were posted in the proper time and location. A letter was mailed first class mail to the tax mailing address of the owner and adjoining property owners. Therefore, all the procedural requirements for the hearing have been met.
Thank you. Mr. Kinder?
Good evening. My name is Tony Buff. I'm a residential builder here in Bowling Green. I'm here representing the homeowner, Mr. Kinder, at 800 Deer Ridge Run. I also built the unit at 800 Deer Ridge Run. Mr. Kinder is proposing a third bay garage, as noted on the north end of his property, to encroach 2 feet 5 inches into the side setback. The garage itself would be 10 feet with a 1 foot overhang on it, would be the 11-foot encroachment, 11-foot size. Mr. Kinder has a third vehicle he'd like to keep inside and not keep out in his front of the house. As you saw in the picture, he's got a very large pickup truck and 2 other vehicles that he'd like to have housed. The original setbacks for the house, the unit, Mr. Kinder's unit and the unit next door, with the included 11-foot addition, still leaves 24 feet 7 inches, I believe, between the new proposed addition and the unit to the north. The homeowner to the north, who I built the unit as well, is in favor of this as well.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else wish to address this? Sir?
In addition to my
I'm
comments,
sorry, sir. You want to start with your name and
Excuse me.
address, please?
Fred Boble, 970 Deer Ridge Run,
Thank you.
Bowling Green. I have a letter here from another resident in the neighborhood, if I can read it.
Sure.
Okay. I have noted a request for a zoning variance has been submitted to allow the owner of the residence at 800 Deer Ridge Run to encroach the setback by 2.5 feet to allow construction of an additional garage to the residence. My primary objective to this request is a precedence being set for future similar requests in our neighborhood. We chose Deer Ridge Run subdivision because of its uniformity and architectural similarities. The community was well planned with clearly delineated lots and setbacks, which to my knowledge have been followed. To allow a variance permitting this setback encroachment has the potential of creating a precedent which could ultimately damage the continuity of the subdivision. I'm sorry I was unable to attend tonight's meeting. Therefore, we have asked Fred Bowl or Galen Finn to read the statement for me. Thank you, Richard Martin, 1338 Pin Oak Court.
Sir, would you pass that letter down so we can go as part of the record?
My concerns are the same as Dick's. The subdivision is well planned with units having the same basic looks from the street. Although brick roofing and colors may be different on each building, they all have the same architectural look as was intended by the original developer, and that was Don Titus. The variance will set a precedent in Deer Hollow that could change the common theme of our homes, a theme that was so carefully planned. With the reduced distance between units and additional garage door facing the street, and the additional roof lines needed to accommodate the garage, the architecture looks of the neighborhood will be changed forever. If anybody's been down the street, they can see how each unit is similar in the two-car garage in each end, and then the living area in between it. And this has been a complete change.
Sir, you want to speak up a little bit?
That's all I have.
Any questions? Comments?
As the original builder of the unit and the unit next door and the landowner of all the remaining lots in the neighborhood, Mr. Kinder has hired me so that architecturally his garage will match his unit, which is what we do. We build high-end houses and we make them look uniform. And as you saw from the pictures, and if you drive through there, I've built after Mr. Boble, most of all the other units out there, and they do all look uniform. And the third bay would look uniform. And there are units out there that have a third car garage on them.
Thank you. You two can decide who's coming up first. Remember to state your name and address, please. And talk into the microphones because it'll be heard on the tape and the court reporter can hear it.
Will do.
Okay.
Galen Finn, 966 Deer Ridge Run, the first resident of the development. What Fred commented about the uniformity has been a fairly important facet in our development out there. Unfortunately, we had one person who wanted to put windows in his garage, and we didn't allow it in the garage door. And actually, Tony had the unfortunate situation where he did put windows in and they had to take them out. We're trying to continue a very harmonious development. And the garage roofs, I'm not a builder, but one garage roof is like this and one is flat, and they all are supposed to be in that format. We do have 2 3-car garages, and they are on a stub street that stops at Mr. Carlson's property because he wouldn't sell. And the front of those 2 units, or on either side of the stub street, look identical to the remainder of the units in the subdivision, with the exception that's on the side at the stub street, they have 3-car garages. If similar opportunity could be afforded, I think we probably would go with another 3-car garage that didn't change the look of the units as you're driving down the street. And that, Mr. Kinder's not the original owner. He's bought it secondhand, not a good term. But another additional owner, and obviously didn't buy fully what he wanted. I would hope that we don't have a string going here where we start something that we don't want to see continue. And the harmony, you take a look at the bylaw or the registrations and the descriptions, it talks about the harmonious character of the division. So I guess that's primarily what I wanted. Fred, was there anything else?
Is there an HOA?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the rules and regulations that he's addressing.
That's a challenging bit for us right now, because Tony is standing in kind of for the HOA. The HOA has not been fully formatted. So the developer, he has, majority is now sold, but you're near the majority. But they have taken on, his partner is doing the accounting or the organization, collecting fees and like that. So hate to be bothering Tony and going against what he would like to do for this owner. But on the other hand, we've made people change they'd want to
do their garages a different color. And we said, no, you can't do that. And we've kept the continuity and the look of the development the same. And I guess that's just what we're trying to do here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We as a board have no jurisdiction over the HOA stipulations. The only thing that we're looking at is the variance for the land. That's what we're looking, that's all we can judge on. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak?
Well, I have a question for you. Can you make it so that it looks like the others? So that it wouldn't stick out, or even though, as she said, that's not something that we.
When the other purchaser bought, does the HOA have any restrictions on additions? The HOA does? So they bought it knowing that there was a restriction on the addition.
I have a question for Tony. Tony, some garages, 3-car garages can be side by side in front, and then the third car is behind the second car. You know, I forget what they call that style, but so that you still.
So you have to go to the microphone. I'm sorry. It won't be on the record.
It's not, it doesn't change the front line of the building, but it extends the depth of the garage.
The proposal is the existing 2-car garage sits at the existing setback on the street. The new garage will have a 2-foot setback from the existing garage. So it'll step back 2 feet before it goes over 10 feet. Does that answer your question?
I'm not sure I understand your answer, to be truthful with you. Your drawing indicates that it's actually an extension.
So this is the existing garage, goes back 2 feet. And new garage sets back.
Rose asked a question. I just want to
Yeah,
clarify. Oh, sorry.
Now, if I can just finish up with that.
Please.
So what I'm asking is, do you have space behind the existing garage that you can make the garage deeper?
No, sir. It's all house behind it.
Okay, that was my question.
Matt?
I want to clarify, Rose, what you were asking, because I'm curious as well. When she said, can you make the garage look like the rest of the homes? I'm assuming that you meant made out of the same material. Is that what you're getting at?
And
Or
style.
Same brick, same style, same roof line, same siding. You know, I build $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 houses in town all the time. We put 3-car bays on them, and they all look harmonious.
The houses that do have 3 garages, were they added or were they original?
They were part of the development before I started building out there.
Original.
I believe Mr. Boble probably built them. They are side load. The 3 garages are on the side of the unit because it's off of a side street.
Anything else? Anyone else? All right, let's close the public hearing and discuss it among ourselves. Gentleman and lady, comments?
Oh, I guess I have to think about what the neighbors were saying about that. You know, they bought the property, you know, knowing that there's restrictions affecting things. And then for someone to come along and change it. I feel for neighbors who object.
You want to speak up, Chris, so she can hear you?
Like I said, I feel for the neighbors who are objecting to the addition, knowing going in, they bought property expecting the HOA rules to be followed. And they're enforced in some, I guess, not enforced in others. And I know we're not supposed to, enforce the HOA.
No, we don't. We
But
don't do anything with the HOA.
I think we need to take into the feelings of the neighbors in the surrounding areas when we make a zoning change.
I feel like I could argue this both ways, honestly. On one hand, I certainly understand that the people bought into this idea of it being, I mean, I'm pretty, I enjoy the idea of uniformity myself. I like that type of organization. On the other hand, it would bother me to have a car sitting out in the driveway all the time. So I could probably argue that that is not
Especially if it was that
aesthetically,
big truck.
right, not aesthetically, nothing against trucks, but not aesthetically pleasing. I'd rather have that inside of a garage bay. So,
And I'm the first to hate to tell people what they can and cannot do to their property.
Chris, you gotta go into your mic so
Well,
I can hear you.
I'm one of the first to admit, I hate telling someone that what they can or cannot do to their own personal property and, where to park their vehicles. But again, he knew going in that this was going to be an issue. And like I said, the neighbors, when, one person objects to something that's going in and get more support, but I'm seeing a lot of pushback on this variance from the neighborhood.
especially with the close nature of the buildings, the way they were built, I think I'd feel a little differently if they were single family on an individual lot and didn't have a conjoined property line. Am I using that word correctly? A zero setback property line would be
Zero lot line.
zero lot line.
Zero. But shouldn't it be up to the HOA to address that issue? And she said we're dealing with
Setback.
2 foot.
Well,
yeah.
Until the development is done, though, the developer has control of the HOA, correct?
Yes, you'll have to step up there.
The HOA has an established architectural committee that we will go to if the variance is granted. And then we will argue our case with them. So they'll have a chance to, obviously tell us no, or we'll have a chance to go with the HOA rules and meet their stipulations for, as Mr. Finn vented, harmonious.
Right.
So
I mean, my question is the HOA in the hands of the developer or is it in the hands of a third party real estate company?
So that the
Under
HOA, it's split right now. We run the HOA, but Mr. Finn and Mr. Boble are the architectural committee. So will ultimately be their decision on whether this garage can be built.
You're just going for the variance from us for his setback,
Correct.
not anything else. And that's really what we need to concentrate on.
And then I'll argue with them later.
Yes, you argue with them later. We need to concentrate on the variance.
He has two different issues. Yeah. And one is outside our perimeter.
Yep.
Okay. Anything further? They're coming back into public hearing. And may I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Is it-
Matt,
Second.
Matt,
Remember, we're voting on the variance for the only. Rose,
Mhm.
call the roll, please.
yes. Judy Ennis.
Yes.
Rose Hess, yes. Toby Johnson,
Yes.
Chris Ostrowski,
I say yes.
and Matt Bostor,
Yes.
and Bob Waddle.
Yes.
All right, the city has granted your request for your variance. You can take it up with the architectural committee and we're out of that. So.
Thank goodness.
Our fifth request is from Jimmy McCune on behalf of Wallace Communities and property owners Lloyd and Linda Fight. Has requested a variance to allow the construction of a 96-unit multifamily residential apartment complex, which would provide 223 off-street parking spaces, 2.17 spaces per unit, rather than the required 358 off-street parking spaces, a difference of 135 spaces, based on the requirement of one space over 320 square feet, and would exceed the 40% maximum lot coverage by approximately 10%, for a total of 50% lot coverage. The parcel is identified as parcel number B0751130303046000, near the 900 to 1000 block of South Main Street, East Side, and zoned R3 multiple family residential, modern density. Heather?
Thank you. So in your packet, I did give you background on this. As some of you may recall, we did have a similar request back in June of 2021 for this project by Wallace Communities for the construction of a 96-unit multifamily residential apartment complex. It is near the 900 to 1,000 block of South Main Street. It is zoned R3 multiple family residential moderate density, which stipulates the maximum lot coverage of 40% under section 150.16, the bulk and density regulations, and also under section 150.59A is the off-street minimum parking requirements table, which requires one off-street parking space per 320 square feet. So again, the variance was denied back in 2021. And so they decided to apply again with the permission, of course, of the property owners. But they actually have changed the site plan and before applying. And in the last request, their request was to provide 202 spaces, a difference of 156 spaces from the required 358. This time they were able to increase the parking to 223, which would be approximately 2.17 spaces per unit, which would be a difference of 135 spaces from the required 358. The lot coverage request is remaining the same at approximately 50%, exceeding that 40% limit by 10%. Their engineer did provide approximate lot coverage information below, which equals about 47.5%. But again, they wanted some flexibility there to get to that potentially 50% just again for any type of changes may be needed. So as far as building area, there was an estimate of 61,514.37 square feet, pavement 105,851.75, sidewalk 24,961.47 square feet, proposed lot area would be 9.305 acres, and then lot coverage again about 47.5. Also gave you a copy of the site plan and minutes from the last ZBA meeting of June 6th of 2021. Again, just to give you an understanding of it has changed. You know, we can't reapply for the same exact request. So again, just wanted to make sure you knew that. We did not receive any written correspondence or any phone calls. Since I already read the zoning code, I don't think I need to do that again. But again, it is section 150.16 bulk and density where we look at the R3 and we get the maximum lot coverage of 40%. Here's an aerial view of the parcel. So you can see it's kind of an interesting parcel, how it's essentially landlocked right now, but it's again zoned properly. As far as access, it would likely be from South Main Street under an easement between those property owners. Using pictometry, again, not a lot to see. It is a vacant parcel right beside the tracks. Here's another view of the property. There's additional view. And it's hard to really get great pictures. Again, you know, it's a treed lot, there's grass, so it, you know, it's not easy to get back there, but just want to give you an idea of where that would be. And here was a site plan that was submitted as part of the application. We gave you, again, a kind of a smaller copy that's more manageable. And then we tried to give you a larger copy at the back of the parcel. It's a little bit easier to see. An advertisement was placed in the newspaper of general circulation as required. A site notice is placed at the site. The other notices required by Administrative Code were posted in the proper time and location. A letter was mailed, first class mail, to the tax mailing address of the owner and adjoining property owners. Therefore, all the procedure requirements for the hearing have been met. And I forgot to tell you again, which I know you're tired of hearing me say, that we are updating the zoning code. I swear we're making, I think, really good progress for as big of a project it is. And so again, we are looking at starting off with the potential elimination of parking requirements. And what I mean by that is not, we wouldn't have any parking requirements everywhere. We would still have, you know, the landscaping requirements, the screening, et cetera. It'd be that us as a city, we're not feeling that we need to tell a business what they need for their project. So again, it's still in the draft phase. We hope it's actually out by the end of the month to share with the public. But again, just trying to, again, remind you of that, and that we are looking at reducing parking, if not substantially. We'll see where that lands. But again, wanted to make sure you knew that. So that, I have nothing else unless you have any specific questions.
I have one question,
Sure.
Heather.
Just a second,
Oh,
ma'am.
I'm sorry.
Don't you have to say that notice has been given to the property owners?
A letter was mailed, first class mail, the tax mailing address of the owning joining property owners.
Yes.
Therefore, all procedural requirements have been met. Didn't I say that?
No, you didn't.
Didn't I?
No.
Okay. Well, thanks for keeping me straight, Judy.
That's okay.
It's
no
been a long
problem.
day.
Now, Matt.
The project on Dunbridge Road, the apartment complex,
Mhm.
what was the parking spaces per unit for that project? Do you
I-
recall off the top of your
two.
head?
I believe it was 2 per unit.
Yeah.
Two, right on
Mhm.
two? Okay. So this is,
They were like,
This is deja vu.
And actually, I was
They're
also
living-
going to ask about the coverage
Mhm.
in the, on that last
Yeah.
approval.
on the Dunbridge Road?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you remember what that was?
I don't remember if they gave that to us.
I don't know.
I thought
They
they
didn't
did,
give
and
us a
I-
detailed plan. It was more our engineers looked at the site. Here's the variance that we think we need, which would be parking. So I don't remember lot coverage being on there, or at least they didn't determine it was an issue to request a.
I
Variance
believe
for.
the lot coverage was below.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah,
thought as
I
yeah.
believe
well.
the
it was.
conversation was that it was lower than the necessary
Yep.
number. And that's what we were talking about, the number of lots. If we're going to add more car parking,
Mhm.
it would change that.
Mhm.
And I can't speak to specifics. I mean, it's obviously a much larger
Mm.
parcel, the last request.
Right.
It was a lot more intricacies in that one, and I don't want to compare the two, but
Right.
I don't believe
They're
lot
different.
coverage was being asked for. So
This is actually
Mr.
more,
McCune,
2.17.
Right.
let's let Mr. McCune speak.
Mhm.
You're welcome.
Jimmy McCune, 160 West Main Street, New Albany, Ohio. So thank you, and thank you for all your help. So yeah, my name's Jimmy with Wallace. So as Heather mentioned, we requested a similar variance back in June of 2021, where we had about 200 parking spaces for the same number of units. We sort of went back to the drawing board with our architect and engineer. We were able to squeeze about 23 more spots out by redoing the site plan. By doing that, we are exceeding the maximum lot coverage. So I think in the packet it says 50, but by our calculations, it's about 47. We just requested maybe for a little bit of cushion during construction in case, we need some extra space for, whatever that may be. But just a quick update on the project itself that we are now calling Summer Grove Apartments. I don't know if I've told you that, Heather, but that's the name we've given it. Back in June, when we applied for the variance, we were gearing up to submit this project to the Ohio Housing Finance Agency, which is the allocating agency for affordable housing resources. So like tax credits, what they call gap financing, certain types of grants, CDBG, things like that. And it's a competitive application process to apply for these funds. And at the time, when the variance request was initially denied, we kind of thought, well, the only thing that's required for us to submit is proper zoning be in place. And obviously it was. So we kind of made a decision to go ahead and submit it because I think, as you mentioned, sir, I mean, I've been doing this for, 8-9 years now. And, I've never seen so much data that indicates that affordable housing is in huge need in Bowling Green and Wood County in particular. I mean, all the state data, we have a professional market study that, basically shows that demand is off the charts. And, we do see that a lot in, college towns. And just looking at the existing stock of housing that's primarily geared towards students, we think that we have a tremendous opportunity here to provide 96 units of, affordable quality rental housing that, again, Wallach will be the developer, long-term owner, long-term manager. We provide on-site supportive services to the residents. And sort of going back to the variance request is that, these types of projects are hard to make work financially. And, there's a lot that goes into it, when you have the state agency involved and a number of other partners. So we asked for up to $3 million in Ohio Housing Trust funds and about a $12 million allocation of what they call bond volume cap. which basically triggers tax credits. And those allow us to keep the project at or below 80% of the area median income. So the rents are basically capped. So it's not like a subsidy where the tenant has a voucher or like from the housing authority where they're paying a certain percentage of their income towards rent. So they're paying the full rent. It's just lowered to a certain level. And the state loved the project and they awarded us the funds that we asked for. So they gave us a $3 million allocation and a $12 million bond volume cap allocation for tax credits, along with some help with construction financing. So, we're excited. I think that, I should be very clear that, we would never propose a project that we didn't think had adequate enough parking. And, Wallach's been doing this a long time. And I think that we do have plenty of parking spaces for the type of project that we're building. And just to name off a couple of examples of other cities around Ohio where we have a similar type project, London, Ohio, which is a two spaces per unit requirement, Hillsborough, Ohio, 2 spaces per unit, Marion, Ohio, 1.5 spaces per unit, Findlay, 2 spaces per unit, and Ashland, 2 spaces per unit. And, I did want to sort of say too that during the last meeting, the question was brought up if students could live at this type of housing, and the answer is primarily no. So the program, when it was developed back in the 80s, was not geared toward allowing students to live at these types of projects. They're income tested. There's a questionnaire they have to fill out. It's all very specific. So we don't anticipate that being an issue. And like I said, the program's not designed for students, and it does preclude full-time students from living in this type of housing. So it truly is a workforce housing model that is, below what they call market rate. And, we're excited about it. I think, the state's behind us on it. And, we're ready to move to the next step. So that is why I'm requesting this variance.
The examples you gave, what's the lot coverage percentage of those properties?
The lot coverage on those, well, I don't have those in front of me, to be honest. I feel like, I guess I had those because I felt like the parking was more of a concern during the last meeting. But, based on I can say based on a number of units to how many acres they are on ratio, it almost more than likely does exceed 40 or 50%. Now, granted, some of those are in a little bit more urban areas. And, as Heather said, the site that we have is somewhat landlocked. And, with the number of units we have to build to make it financially feasible, and then, trying to get enough parking to accommodate, it's really hard to meet that 40% maximum.
And what was the unit count? How many 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms?
I have that in my, hold on. Actually, I do know this. It's 18 1 bedrooms. I want to say 48 2 bedrooms, and then the remaining are 3 bedrooms. But I can confirm that with you. But so yeah, there's the largest bedroom type is 2 bedrooms. And that is by design, because when we got our market study, that is what told us that that those were the ones that are in the highest demand.
Is there anyone else here in the audience that wishes to address this? Anyone, any questions from the members of the board? I will say what I've said many times: when a builder or a retail person voluntarily gives up parking spaces, they know what they're doing, because that's usually the last thing that everybody wants is parking spaces. So if you're telling us that this is enough and we won't have that great asphalt jungle out there,
okay. Yep.
And I would believe that. Anyone else?
I think it's important to note that, the big issue for us last time was parking.
Yes.
And they've gone back, redesigned it, and come back to us. I think that speaks volumes.
I do too. I do too.
And is this a pond?
It's a dry pond, so it'd be like a stormwater drainage.
Everybody likes a water feature.
Well, we've actually, you're not the first person to say that. And, you know, we would love to do something like that. It's just, I mean, if anybody here is familiar with the, you know, the construction world right now, I mean, things have just gone crazy.
Yeah.
You know, so we're doing what we can to, you know, to try and manage costs. You know, it's almost, it's benefiting us in a way to wait, because now that, you know, they're raising interest rates, the idea is that hopefully construction costs will start coming down. So, but again, that's my
So in the end,
problem.
we did you a favor.
Yeah, more or less. Yes.
Okay. All right. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Will the secretary
you,
call the
Bill?
roll?
Mm-hmm.
We had an executive discussion on this? No?
We did.
Yeah.
Because they're talking, I thought we were still in open session.
No, I went into executive. Okay, I'll go into executive. Chris, what do you want to
Well,
say?
I
that
want
you
to,
haven't
I
already
want to find
said?
out the lot, the unit count before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
204.
Mhm.
90.
Yeah, Bob is
96.
saying. It's 204.
While he's doing that, Heather, the lot density issue is really caused by us from the last time because we wanted more parking. But they're occupying more property that way than they were originally
Because we asked them to.
because we asked them.
Right.
Right. Catch 22.
Yes. Okay.
I was off by 2. But that's 61 bedroom, 44 2 bedrooms, and 36 bedrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Anything further, Chris, you need?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. We will come back into the public and I will take a motion, please.
So moved.
I thought you already had a.
I have
Yeah.
a motion out there.
Okay, I'm
sorry.
gonna use
I already
that
have a
one.
And I
motion.
have Bob and Hobie.
Okay, perfect.
Yes,
All
go.
right. All right, go. Matt Bostorff,
Yes.
Judy Ennis.
Yes.
Rose Hess, yes. Hobie Johnson,
Yes.
Chris Ostrowski.
Yes.
David is absent. Bob Waddle.
Yes.
Request for your variance has been granted and thank you for making the adjustments and coming back.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
We need new apartments, you know?
Yeah, we do. Okay.
I was-
Those apartments are so.
Our last request for variance is Thomas Estrada, representing Proudfoot Associates on behalf of Culver's Restaurant, has requested a variance to allow the construction of a total of 6 signs, 4 wall signs and 2 signs on a pylon, which would exceed the maximum of 3 signs allowed for a business. The parcels are identified as parcel number B08 510 36020 10196 and B08 510 360 201019 and located on West Gypsy Lane Road in front of the Walmart property. Sir?
Judy, you want me to give my?
Oh, I'm
quick-
sorry. Go
That's
ahead.
okay. So under the zoning
It's been a
code,
long night. I'm just trying to get everybody out of here.
I understand. Under section 150.66, outdoor advertising in BIM and S districts under E1, the code states no more than 3 outdoor advertising structures shall be used for each business or structure. And in this case, the property is commercial. Here's an aerial view of the 2 lots that are on West Gypsy Lane Road that Culver's Restaurant plans on purchasing. And that would be, you know, basically off of that service drive that enters into the existing Walmart. Using pictometry, here is a view of the site. This would be facing north. And then here's another view of the property there. Here would be basically the frontage there. And then another picture of the property. And here's an actual picture of the front there from Gypsy Lane Road. Another view of the parcels, I should say. And then this is view from the service road, so facing east. Another view facing the same direction. And then here's a view if you're actually on that drive into Walmart there, then you're facing really north. You know, it's hard to see here, but in your packet, there's a larger drawing. So this was meant to show the proposed site plan. So the main restaurant, you can see it kind of goes over off into that adjoining property with the parking. We tried to highlight and just numbered the signs just to keep it organized. So here we'd have a proposed wall sign on each space of the building. So the 4 sides, and then the pylon over here would be in compliance as far as the height, maximum height of 25 feet. And then as far as the maximum size, it would just be that all these signs together equal the 6. So obviously exceeding the maximum of 3. Also the total aggregate, if you add all the signs together, that is in compliance. So again, the size is fine and the total aggregate square footage. As part of your packet, you'll see renderings of the signs and then of course the size. So again, we tried to match the labeling on the site plan with that number. So sign number 4 is on the site plan and then it shows the proposed square footage. So 29.96 for one. The one labeled as sign 1 is 46.77 square feet. The one labeled as sign 2 is 29.96 square feet. And then the one labeled sign 3 is 29.96 square feet. Here's a rendering of the actual pylon sign. We called that sign 5 and 6 because our code does recognize that if you have, even though it's one structure, it still has 2 separate signs. So that's counted as 2 signs. So again, that top portion would be in compliance with the size, the 106.6 square feet. And then that bottom electric message board sign, we call that sign number 6, and that's approximately 46.3 square feet. So I think that's it as far as the information that I have to share with you. We did not receive any phone calls about this or any written correspondence. An advertisement was placed in the newspaper of general circulation as required. A site notice was placed at the site. The other notices required by the Administrative Code were posted in the proper time and location. A letter was mailed first-class mail to the tax mailing address of the owner and adjoining property owners. Therefore, all the procedure requirements for the hearing have been met.
Thank you. I see a lot of Culver's people back there, so hats and things. So wanna come forward, please.
Thomas Urista, 10210 Waterville Street, White House, Ohio. I'm a professional engineer with Proudfoot Associates, and our role in the project is the site design. With me tonight is Ben Galavis, and Ben will be the owner of the franchise, and he has 2 associates with him as well. The restaurant, as you're looking from Gypsy Lane and looking at Walmart, is just to the left of the entrance drive. All the drives to the restaurant will come off the Walmart property. There'll be no drive off of Gypsy Lane. They'll all have to come in from the Walmart drive onto the property. The restaurant will have 2 drive-in lanes. We do meet the stacking requirement. We exceed the parking requirement. But our variance that we're requesting is the number of signs. Culver's has their own standard model, which is to put that oval sign on every face of the building. They like it on all 4 sides of the building. And they also like a pole or a pylon sign with the same oval sign on top. And then they have the electronic message board underneath, which lists the flavor of the day. That's one of their main standard features. We are asking for 6 signs. Your code requires 3 signs. And that's why we're asking it, because it's the 6 signs is what Culver's wants from their franchises. But we do meet the square footage.
we're under the square footage requirement. So in total sign area, we're less than what's required. It's just that we're adding 3 more signs.
Okay. Gentlemen, any of you want to speak?
Ben Galaviz, 4233 Miramar Drive, Toledo, Ohio. So I own the Culvers in Spring Meadows Place in Holland, Ohio. And I moved from Wisconsin back in April to, I guess, spread the Culvers joy to Ohio, which is a very good state for opportunity. Wisconsin's full, can't build in Wisconsin, can't build in Michigan, can't build in Illinois anymore. Indiana's really tapped out. And we found a great spot in Holland, Ohio, and we actually break ground in a few weeks in Perrysburg. I'll be part owner of that as well. It's part of our group. Our group is called Blue Granite, which is BG. It all makes sense at the end. My initials are BG. It all makes sense. So anyways, we found Bowling Green, and I made the first initial phone call. I think it was last summer, right after we opened Holland. I talked to a gal named Katie Thompson, and I think she's a local business owner and on a economic development board, and she couldn't be more excited. You know, I can't speak for her, and phone calls kind of went dead. You know, we tried to find a couple lots in Bowling Green and on Worcester, and just nothing fits, nothing quite works quite right. And we found the Walmart property, and we're like, well, wait a second, light bulb went on, and really nice spot. The building's beautiful. It's a blue color. It's welcoming. It's where families come to gather, sports teams come, and at any given time, you know, you can only see one sign. You know, I'm not in the zoning and variance board, but it's a beautiful building, and Bowling Green's been great to us so far. And, you know, we're excited to get down here. You know, hopefully break ground in October and sell you guys a lot of good food and some custard. And we think it's a perfect spot for it. And it's not an ugly building by any means. I don't know if you've all been to a Culver's before, but it does have a nice glow to it at night. The signs do have a blue tint to it and everything. And if you don't mind, I do have a picture on my phone. If I can show it to you guys, what it looks like at night, I think that'll help you maybe understand it a little bit better.
Sure.
So.
Or you're going to have to talk up a little because the court reporter's got to record you and she can't hear you.
Show is our building. Where's the holiday? That's ours at Holland. So logo.
That's a nice size.
Yes.
Wow.
But yeah, that's what I have. And, you know, we're excited. Like I said, you know, obviously the first time meeting you guys and did move out of state to, like I said, build in Ohio. And there's a lot of opportunity in this state, and especially in Bowling Green. We think it's the right fit for the Midwest culture of what Culver's is. And Bowling Green fits that perfect demographic of families and hospitality and just that warm welcome. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I do have one question. I guess that more comes from my daughter, Ella. She asked, how soon will you be open? And that's the swim team in the high school.
Well, here's the kicker on that. I've been told the asphalt company's closed in November, so we got to wait till the April opening.
Dear.
She will be crushed.
You can always take her to their one in Finley.
Well, she goes to the one on
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to speak?
I have questions.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I do. As usual, I'm always bothered by signs. And when I drive to Walmart, that intersection drives me crazy. And I just feel like we're going back to the 80s where we were inundated with signs. And instead of trying to work with the businesses, we often grant these variances. For example, on the sketch, are signs 1, 4, and 3 all visible from Gypsy Lane? I mean, why do you need 3 signs there, and in the back is two is the entrance, right?
The
Yeah.
pylon sign will be visible from Gypsy Lane. And there's
That,
two signs on the pylon.
right, and then three, that makes five signs,
see the
three on
front.
Gypsy Lane. Gypsy,
You'll see the sign on the front of the building, the signs on the side of the building. Be tough if you're going to see them or not.
There's a sign rows on each side of the building.
yeah, I see
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's there, it's kind of at an angle though. You can't really.
Actually, I don't,
The building
Yeah.
runs
that's,
parallel to
Here's
Gypsy Lane.
Gypsy Lane.
Right.
So can you see all these signs?
no,
No.
the sign's flat there.
Bob, you
Flat
need to
there.
speak up.
and flat there.
Recovery. Brennan.
Mm,
I was just explaining the rows that they was flat on each side.
They're flat on the building.
And also, Rose, these are part of the franchising.
I know.
I mean, this is what these stores do so that when you are speeding down the highway and you recognize a sign out of the corner of your eye,
Hmm.
you realize you're going to pass Culver's. And so you make a hard left and get in.
And hopefully you're not speeding.
Rose,
Um,
I understand what you're getting at because I do agree with you in some cases. This one to me seems a little bit different because you'll only see two signs at any given time, right? From the road or from the Walmart parking lot. It's not like you're being inundated by six signs, depending on if you're in the Walmart parking lot or driving down Gypsy or on Wooster, you're only going to see, one or two of the signs at a time. I think it's a unique layout based on that lot and being visible from so many directions. I think I would feel less inclined to support it if it was on a Wooster Street or Main Street, right? And you had six signs all over the front out by the road. This is, I think, quite unique.
What about the pylon? Can you get by with one on the pylon?
That's not Culver's standard.
Well, one more of a message board.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I was gonna
McDonald's,
say
Another
that's-
message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
McDonald's and the hotel and everything else
Yeah.
we've already approved.
But we're below the total square footage.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
And Rose, if you go down into Finley, they have a Culver's down there, and I was down there the other day, and you can see that it's tasteful. It's not
Yeah.
really.
It doesn't change very often.
Yeah.
Their flavor of the day is unfortunately, I'm probably too familiar with their product. But it's a fairly static sign displaying their custard flavor of the day, which regardless of what it is quite delicious.
Yes, it is. Why do you think I go to Finley?
Low in calories, right?
No calories.
Do I look like a man?
Okay, is there any more quick comments? That will go into executive session. Any questions, comments amongst ourselves?
No, I mean, I guess my only comment would be, I understand as well, Rose, but I think that's a unique spot.
Yeah.
And it's especially with all of the drives coming in from the Walmart side. Yeah, you almost have to.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that the company has kept it within this square footage requirements.
Yeah, and Bob, to underline that, I also, there are to your east of that, there is a building that blocks that as well as a tire building. And so there's a lot of reasons why it's masked off. So,
Well, I'd much rather see something like this with quality standard logos rather than the backside of that tire
I think we
place.
saw that too
Yeah.
with the Pizza Hut one we did with them being on a corner lot like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
for the Signs all around.
Well, on paper, it looks frightening.
Any more questions or comments? If not, I'm going to take us out of the executive session. And may I have a motion, please?
I will so move.
Mark Hobie? And
Chris.
Chris?
Okay. As your
Okay.
final act as a board secretary, Rose, you can call the roll.
Okay. I always call the roll.
I know, but this will be the final time you'll have
Oh,
to
the
do it.
final time. All right. Bob Waddle,
Yes.
Chris Ostrowski.
Yes.
Hobie Johnson
Yes.
and Judy Ennis.
Yes,
And Matt Bostorff.
Yes.
your request for your variance has been granted.
No, I
Well,
haven't
Rose-
voted yet. I'm undecided.
Oh, well, come on, Rose.
Oh,
It's gonna win, Rose, one way or the other.
I know
so
it is.
Vote.
I'll vote yes.
Okay, good. It's unanimous. Your variance has been granted.
Sounds painful.
Is there anybody here who wishes to have any kind of lobby visitation with us?
I
Or
just want,
spend the night with us, whatever is happening here?
I just want to make sure you're aware of the June
do.
1st meeting of the planning commission at 7:00. That is when Zone Co is going to present the remaining sections of the draft zoning code. So again, if you don't mind marking your calendars, it'll be at the Simpson Building.
What's that again, please?
June 1st, it's a Wednesday at 7 PM. It is a planning commission meeting. It's a fairly light agenda, so we're gonna do the presentation after their regular business. Thank you.
Okay.
William Harold, 1030 Conneaut Avenue. I just wanted to briefly thank Rose and Bob for their service. This has been, recently, there's been some really tough variances.
Mhm.
And Rose, you know my opinion of you. You're a pillar of the community. And I
Thank
do
you.
want to remind both you and Bob that after you're off for a time,
Mhm.
you can get back on. So now's the time to start lobbying the mayor to
Oh,
get you put back on.
no, the roll of paper is spinning, spinning, spinning.
Anyway, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
Yes, yes, they are term limited. Otherwise, we would not let go of them. Thank you all for your patience in attending tonight. Rose and Bob, you will be missed, but
We'll miss you too.
yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, we will.
Me and the toilet paper you'll miss, right? All right, may I have a motion for adjournment, please?
So moved.
Second.
Vote with your feet, and thank you all very